Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show and episode 163. All right, guys, we are back here again. So I've kind of been in this weird bag lately where I've been trying to find guests from, other avenues of just social media and the internet. And I started going through guests or just certain advocates for disabilities and other things. But I found this one website, and I can't remember what it is, but it pulled up a lot of different people. And it's not very easy to get a hold of some of these people because they're very famous or popular and have a big following, so they're very insulated. So some of them are hard to get a hold of. And our next guest is the first one to really get back to me. I'm starting to get a couple now, but he was very gracious and just getting back to me and setting something up. And we're here, and he has a very very interesting story that I wanted to get out there. And he seems like a cool guy from what I'm getting to know off air here. So. Buddy, you want to tell us your name, maybe a little about yourself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, TJ, thanks for having me on.
Anytime, buddy.
I gotta say, I'm glad you got a hold of me, but that intro made it sound like everyone else was way more popular than I am.
No, that ain't it. I promise.
No, I'm joking.
I'm sure there was a few celebrities on there, so yeah, there's a few that were, but no, you were one of the first people I reached out to because I saw your story. And I was like, cool.
No, I'm glad you did. My name's, to your listeners, my name's Noah Galloway. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and was in college when 9/11 happened. That moved me to join the military. I was in the invasion of Iraq in 2003, went back in 2005, and was hit by a roadside bomb. Ended up losing my left arm and left leg. Had severe other injuries to my other limbs, but those healed. And I did battle with a lot of I'm going to run through the whole story, then we can talk about whatever you want.
That's right.
I did go through several years of battling with depression. I'm very open about talking about that. But I did, get help and turn it around, and then ended up getting into fitness, which was covered Men's Health, and then ended up on Ellen and then Dancing the Stars. And that's it.
Awesome. I think you were the guy I reached out to too, because you did the Dancing with the Stars, and I think you're the guy I reached out about doing it because of my grandma.
Yeah.
Okay, you are the guy.
Yep.
And it's funny because I forgot that you were on Dancing with the Stars. So.
Yes. Yep.
But that is not the focus. I want to talk about it a little bit, but okay. So obviously, we go to the beginning. So 9/11, was that when that first happened? What was your initial reaction? Was that immediate? Oh, I'm all in. Let's just go. This is bullshit. This should have never happened.
What happened was a friend of mine called me and woke me up because I was sleeping, and I turned the TV on, and it was when that after that one plane had hit, and we're all watching and concerned. And then I watched that second plane hit. And that was when everything changed. Suddenly the newscasters went from pilot error to we're country under attack. And I remember watching it, and then you had all the other things going on. And then I went for a run. And on that run, I decided that I was 20 years old, physically fit, and loved my country. So why wouldn't I? And I joined the military.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing. There are things that happen in history or just happen in the world. You see all these mass shootings and everything. You see people that just, I think the average person feels like we kind of feel helpless because we want to do something, but we don't know what to do. But in this case, there is an obvious outlet for you to do what you got to do to hopefully protect, and so this doesn't happen again, barring any random circumstances, whatever. But so yeah, you actually had a good outlet to just get out there. But is there a certain mindset you have? You went on a walk, so is there a certain mindset you have to go through? Because you have to kind of, you have to feel comfortable with actually going, I'm going to put my health on the line. I might die.
To be honest with you, TJ, I'd love to be I love my country so much that it did not matter. That sounds good in movies,
right.
In speeches, but in real life, there has to be other motives. And what I had going on in my life was this took me out of a situation I was in and challenged me in a way that I wanted to be challenged, as I wanted to be, tested as a man. So more or less, I was looking for action.
Sure.
For a reason. I was at an age that I was just full of piss and vinegar, and I wanted it. And I wanted this rush. And I think there's a lot of guys that deal with that, and the problems they deal with when they get home a lot of times is finding those outlets again. I know I've struggled with it as well. It has nothing to do with the military or not, because there are other people that deal with it. It's just we have these same personalities that are, we look for a rush, and that can be used for good or bad.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, because I'm sure maybe I don't know what your past was at that point in time, but there are people that are kind of just off the chain. They're ready to just let loose on anything. And the military is literally the perfect outlet for them to kind of get that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just that, like, the anger. It's just like, so my oldest son is, in fact, before we started this podcast, he and I were just talking about it, because next week he leaves for what's called MEPS, where you go and you start the process of joining the military.
Okay.
And then choose so he's going to do a delayed entry, because we got a lot of trips this summer. I'm going to let him do when he graduates. We'll have a good time. And then in August, he's going to basic training to join the Coast Guard.
Okay.
So, and I encouraged him. I told him, you can choose whatever you want. I made sure I said, I'm not pressuring you into this. He's like, no, this is what I want to do. But I have backed it up by saying, buddy, you have the same, he drives the same way I do. It's like, we're getting speeding tickets. You know what I mean? It's like we have this same personality.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you're going to get that rush in the Coast Guard. Because, I mean, you don't have to go to war. The Coast Guard's riding around on boats and doing missions all the time. They're Homeland Security. I was like, you'll love it. And, I'm not putting him in a dangerous situation like going to combat. So I feel better. Sure. And he'll get those same benefits.
Yeah. No, and I like what you were also saying earlier, because I think we, especially with movies and everything, but we also just glorify a lot of things with the military. We just kind of ignore a lot of what actually what part we play in with destruction and death and all that. But, there are people that just kind of, like, everyone's just like, oh, thank you for your service and this and this and that. And, but there's a lot of people that go over there for the wrong reasons, whether you come out the same way, because usually a lot of times you learn discipline and things like that. So you get humbled based on, you were severely injured. But I think it's good to talk about some of those other angles, because I think we only want to talk about the cutesy stuff and the stuff.
I know. And then you made a good point, like, the thank you for your service. Like, even I've told people, I'm like, just a simple thank you for your service is all you have to do. But realistically, like, even during Vietnam, it was John Prine had a song, your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore. And it was making a point of saying, hey, you can take this saying or this whatever and make it where it's like, it sounds like you're just beating the same drum and you have no meaning behind it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And so then it sounds hollow. And I don't even, like, I just respond thank you to people, because I don't know what their intentions are. They may be hollow. They may truly mean it. They just want to thank me for my service. But either time, I just say thank you to them and hope that they mean well. And because you don't have to say it to me at all. I enjoyed myself. I had a great time. I got blown up for it. But now I have used what happened to me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let this stop me from doing what I do. And and there's people like you. There's a lot of us that are able to do that. But that, for a lot of people, is terrifying.
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. I mean, I lived in a dangerous city, Philadelphia, where people were dying all the time, and I mean, still are. And I've seen a few dead bodies in my life, and, thank God I didn't cause any of them, or I didn't know these people. But there's a war zone going on around all of us, and obviously it's a little different over there. But still, it's like, it's just sad, because sometimes we get so desensitized to this stuff, especially now with mass shootings. It's like when one doesn't happen in a week, we're just like, oh, damn, wow, what happened?
Yeah, no, you're right. That is, no doubt. That goes to the same thing. It's like we become complacent. And so because it becomes commonplace, and it's horrible.
Yeah,
It's horrible.
And in some places it is worse because that's why Chicago got the nickname Chirac, is because more people die in Chicago than Iraq, which is
Yeah, well, that not
awful.
anymore. Now,
Not anymore.
now
Right.
it's in the South. Alabama has the top. We have 2 cities in the top 5.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, it's not anything to be proud of. I don't want that. You know what I mean? I want our state to not have it. I don't want anybody to have it.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, which is crazy though, because it's like, what do we do? There's so many opinions, but then the politicians are bought out, so we listen to them, but then no one else wants to talk.
Yeah, everything's too political and too biased.
Because take, for example, I just recently found out that, I don't know when they did it, but, you know, within the last, you know, within the 2000s, Portugal completely legalized all drugs because they had such a serious drug problem. They did all these studies, and they found that if you just let it be out there and don't worry about catching people and wasting money on it, we'll use this money to prevent people and rehab people. You know what I mean? Prevention versus, you know, criminalizing and losing money. And they dropped their drug problem and crime rate dramatically.
Wow. Well, you see the benefits over here just legalizing marijuana, how much money these states are making. Yeah.
Now, I'm not out here saying we should legalize heroin and stuff like that. I mean, it worked for Portugal, but I mean, that's a terrifying thing to think about being legal.
Yeah. No, I know.
But yeah, I mean, it works. Well, marijuana is a dangerous thing, and people have realized that. Alcohol is so bad for you. It literally kills you, and marijuana just makes you feel good. And it's like, what we can sell one became the other, only because within the last 100 years, America and Europe decided what was going to be good, what's not, and the rest of the countries followed. But people are realizing now that we don't have to.
Yeah, I talked about this on one of the more recent episodes where, you know, you'd see a lot of magazines where it would be a little poster in there, a little ad that would say cigarettes are bad. And on the other end, it would be an ad for Bud Light to buy it. And it's like, no, man, like you can't say that shit and that's good. Like that's not how it works.
No, and I'll tell you, like you know, we've seen it, we've heard it. Well, I've got my father right now. It was probably 6 to 9 months ago. He ended up in the hospital. Because he ended up in the hospital, it forced him to go through. He was an alcoholic, so it forced him to, what's it called when you end up cleaning up?
Sobering?
You went through the withdrawal. What?
You mean like sobering or rehabbing?
Yes, yeah. But while he's doing it, he went through a lot of sick, all that. Anyway, he was at the hospital when it happened. So then, instead of going to rehab, he went home, and he looked so good for about 3 weeks, and then it went back. Now it's like I just saw him the other day, and he looks like death, and that's alcohol. Yeah. That's alcohol killing him. And it's like, and here's the thing is, like, I hate it for him, and he hasn't been the perfect father. We've had our differences. We've talked about it, and I don't blame him. It's a disease he has, and the access is there, and he's trapped, and he's been an alcoholic for so long. I mean, shit. I was going to be shocked if he would have quit.
Right. Yeah, no. You can only do what you can, and just, I've kind of repaired my relationship with my father for the most part. He had some alcohol issues, but mainly it was just he had a lot of anger problems. And the alcohol and the anger collided and culminated into this storm. He never abused me or anything. Just sometimes he would be verbally abusive sometimes.
Yeah.
But
that's, we forget as people, as human, how much words hurt people.
Sure. Yeah, but and again, some of his hatred and anger was more in reaction to how he felt about the world towards me, and he hated to see what I was going through. And there was real love and emotion in there, but just the way he would act on it wasn't the greatest. Yeah. And as a kid, that's very scarring. And that's why I did that episode, to kind of show I've never really had my dad, or really, no one really knows who he is. So I wanted to kind of show how two people can repair the relationship after a long period of time of not even talking to each other or seeing each other.
You did an episode of that?
Yeah, recently. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm definitely going to look that one up, TJ. That sounds powerful.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And again, me and him are still aren't on like the greatest terms. Like I still haven't
Yeah,
seen him
no,
in
that's
maybe 20 years, but
yeah,
it's like I wanted to show how close we've gotten now because we've tried this multiple times and it always fails. But now it seems like he even like apologized to my mom, which those two hate each other.
mm,
There
yeah,
was a lot of growth in it, and that's why I wanted to show
yeah,
it because I know a lot of people have trouble with their parents, whether they're still in communication or not. It's like you never
yes,
know; they may be gone tomorrow, and you won't. You'll sit there and wonder, like, man, I could have just said something.
yeah, yeah.
And so
No,
that's why I did it.
no, that is so powerful. Wow, that is amazing that you had that in the test.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. One of the things you were talking about before we got into this is yeah, like because you see people. There are certain people that go over there and there's certain satisfaction they get when they come back, and it's like they wear shirts saying I served, and they want people to just go, yeah, good for you, man. I thank you for your service. And then there are people that are more humble like you, obviously for many reasons, but it's like you've taken your story and you're not letting the
But you know
military
what?
define you.
I agree with you. I've thought the same thing. I'm like, I'd see a veteran and be like, dude, calm down. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But I've thought about that enough that one, when I first came back after I was injured, I wore shirts. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I was still attached to the military so strong that I was still wearing things that were related to it.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And now I love my time in the military. It's a very important chapter in my life. But that's what it is. It's a chapter. I'm several chapters past. I have a lot of chapters where I've been different people. You know what I mean? So I don't live in that world.
Sure.
But I did. I hung on to it for a long time, like a lot of veterans do. And then, I have a struggle letting it go. And so when I see veterans that are still there, I'm more worried about, they just be proud. Maybe they don't all the time. Maybe it's something special. But then also it could be someone that's the only thing that makes them feel connected. That's unfortunate they haven't found something else yet.
Yeah, and I guess it could be like if you're working somewhere and you're working really hard and you look around and you think everyone's taking their job for granted and you're not getting enough respect, and some ass kisser is, and you're like, oh, what the hell, like why are they paying attention? Whereas like you guys come back and you did something crazy that most people wouldn't want to do, and they're taking their life for granted. It's like, do you understand, like if I don't do this, you may not be living in this comfortable setting. And it's like, yeah, of course I'm going to tell you I served because I did, and I sacrificed a lot. I'm missing an arm. So you can look at it both. I can see how someone can look at it from both angles, especially with someone.
Oh yeah, well no, I'll tell you what. Like around the time I got injured, there was a lot of injured vet, like a lot of men. There were 2 females at the time, but there was a lot of men at 1-3 with different, whether it be from a blast, lose their eyesight, a lot of amputations, a lot of burns, a lot of things going on. So it was a big jump in injured veterans. And let's see, I lost my train of thought. You said something. What was the last thing you said?
Let's see. I was talking about how you can look at it from both ways. As someone could, whether it, the beginning part where you could look at it like, shit, I lost my train of thought.
I know. Where was I? There was something about.
Well, some
veterans.
I was saying that some people could look at it like, if you were working at a job and somebody, you were working your ass off, but the bosses only pay attention, let's say, to the person that kisses ass or does very little, and you're like, oh my God, like you don't even respect me. Like, look how hard I'm working. Whereas like someone in the military can come back and look around and everybody's just like going, oh my God, I'm bitching about, somebody shooting fireworks off and it's too late, and just they're not appreciating like life. And you can just look at everything around you and go, you know what, like you guys take this for granted. I got shot, or I got shot at. I had to shoot somebody. I had to, like, if I didn't do these things, you wouldn't have this. Where at the same time, you could also look at it from the other angle, like we addressed, where it's like, like, all right, dude, you're wearing a shirt. We get it. Like, we know you you want the attention. But again, you could look at it from the other angle, like, holy shit, like you guys don't appreciate this. Look what I did for you.
Right.
So, I mean, it goes both ways. And I think but it's okay to address both angles of it. Cause I think we, like I said, we glorify it and we tend to soften some of these things up. And the reality is there's nothing soft about the military. And I'm not doing because they're all guys and they're tough, but there's nothing soft about it. You have to have real discipline. You have to have,
Yeah.
you have to really want to do this. It's not something you
know,
just go over there and change your mind.
I was one day. This was several years ago, but because this person's even further up in rank now. But I had an old platoon sergeant that was over the training at Fort Jackson in South Carolina. So I went to visit him. I was in the area, so I went to see him, and he's the sergeant major in charge of everything. We walked through. And there's a female soldier who is like, I don't want to be like, she's quit. You know what I mean? And I go into his office, and he steps outside and is talking to her. And he's like, so you don't want to be here? Like, this is your shot, quit, and this and that. And, gave her an opportunity to stay in. And then he said, okay, all right, we'll get her out of here. And he came in, and he goes, if somebody doesn't want to be here, I don't want them here either. You know what I mean? I was like, they're not good for the military. I'm like, I'm glad you see it that way. Because, different leaders, you have some leaders that are just going to push people in as much as they can. You have others that are like, no, let's weed them out and make a stronger, maybe less, but it'll be stronger, more powerful.
Yeah, because you can't treat like the military like sports. Like you can't just be like if you were playing basketball. You can't just be the guy that just wants to jack up a bunch of shots. You got to be about the team.
Team player, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the thing is like, so he's like, hey, why mistreat this? Why even be mean to this female? She doesn't want to be here. Hey, we haven't gone too far to end this process. So it's like, okay, see you later.
Exactly. There you go. So like, how were you before the accident, before you lost both limbs? Like, did you take life for granted? Did you, not really appreciate what you had?
Oh, no. I was very, I was very physical. I mean, just like I am now. Basically, I was pretty much just the same person, just younger. Sure. I feel like there was a time after my injury, several years, that I struggled I battled with depression. And I wasn't myself, and it just took time. And through that struggle and through the healing process, once I finally got help and started going to mental health and taking care of it and doing what I needed to do and taking care of myself and then getting better, well, then I was able to get back to the person I've always been, just a little better.
Sure. Did you go to the stage where you actually had to like mourn the loss of certain body parts?
I'm sure I did. I remember them telling me. I think where I struggled with that was I was in the hospital with other people with worse injuries. Like, here it was, I was missing 2 limbs. There'd be someone else missing 3 or 4, or severe burns or whatever. And I was kept thinking, whoa, like I feel guilty mourning the loss of there was too much going on.
Sure.
The stage that I lived in the longest was denial. I was in denial for it all the time. There was a lot of, I may have quit. I quit taking medicine, but I was self-medicating, with alcohol, and I was not eating a healthy diet. Like that denial stage is what owned me.
What was the thing that you were in the most denial about?
I guess at the time I was afraid. I think there was a lot of fear in me, not knowing where I was going, what I was going to do, what was next. Because I went to the military because of September 11th, but once I got in, I loved it. And was going to go special forces and do all this. And I'd already done the physical and the back end and everything. Like everything was going along perfectly. Like this was a career. And then I woke up one day and it was over. And so I get angry at my arm and my leg, but my sadness came from losing the military. And then my fear was not knowing what the hell I was going to do next.
Was it because you put all your eggs in one basket? Like you never really saw anything else for yourself? So you went 100% for one thing. And then once it ended.
I've had people ask me, well, if 9/11 hadn't happened, what were you in college? What were you going to do? And I'm like, I probably would have dropped out. like there was no way I was going to stay in school. Like I didn't even finish high school. I have an eighth grade education. I went to high school for like a month, and I turned 16. I dropped out, and then years later, I got my GED and scored real high. And these little old women convinced me to go to college. I was like, what? Like, how? They're like, just take the placement test. You'll pass it. And I did. And I ended up going to college. And so I realistically would have dropped out. I was a lost soul in life anyway. But I felt free because I didn't feel limited. And then suddenly I found this career and I lost it. And it hurt. And I didn't know what to do. And so then it was scary. And so I think a lot of times is when you think you're a tough guy and you're scared, well, then you just use that as anger in any sense. And yeah, I struggled with that a lot.
Yeah. And of course, being a big macho guy, like you have to kind of, sometimes, strong people, and I'm not just necessarily talking about physically, sometimes we tend to want to stay strong all the time, and we can't show weakness. And in your case, like I can because, I'm not in the military. I'm not a big dude. But, it's got to be hard to actually have to show real emotion.
It's not. Well, you know what? I'm glad you said that because it's not, well, it is hard, but the hard part isn't trying to look tough. I found that all that did was hurt me, ruin, relationships in my life.
Right.
So all it did was hurt me. What strength I have found now looks like is when a person refuses to let that the darkness of depression take them over and get whatever, whether, it's going to, you could be something as severe as checking into a hospital, or less severe as going to just talk to a counselor, or just open up to a friend, whatever it is, that's real strength.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that and what's great is, that just saying that doesn't even sound like that huge revelation. People are much more open minded to mental health now. Now, I think that people aren't going, they're open minded now. If they hear someone's going, good for you. You know what I mean? I should be doing the same, but they're not. You know what I mean? So what we need is somehow to get people to take that extra step of actually taking care of their mental health and not waiting for depression to hit them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Like it's definitely more talked about. It's just sometimes it gets caught up with the political stuff. Like I said, like when school shootings happen, that's when it's like, let's talk about mental health, but it's only in reaction to let's ban guns or something else.
Exactly. Yep. And it's like, no, we need to be on it all the time.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we try not to get too deep into like people's psyche and their thought process, but it's because it's so sporadic and so, crazed that sometimes like when you tell someone like, and one of the things I was going through before my suicide attempt, I was just in the worst headspace and I was just thinking the worst thing. So I would see a woman, I'd just go, oh, I'm not happy. I want to rape her. Now I would never do it, but it was the thought that scared the shit out of me. It was like, my God, because it was anyone who had happiness and I didn't. And I felt so horrible. Yeah, I wanted to ruin it. And there's a lot of people who think like that, who then act on it. And again, that's why a lot of these school shootings and other horrible things happen. And again, we're not talking about like schizophrenia or anything. We're just talking about just depression, loneliness, anxiety, things like that. I mean, they all get connected in one way or another. But there's some really scary thoughts. You just forget, take people out of the equation. You just go like, man, I see a bus. I want to walk right in front of that. Like just little thoughts, and it'll just scare you because sometimes you're not even in a bad place, and or at least you don't think you are. And then all of a sudden you're just sitting there waiting to cross the street, and then you just see a bus, and you're like, I really want to step out in front of that. And you actually have to you step out of yourself and go like, holy shit, like you don't really know how close you were to actually doing it, but it was just a thought. And again, I think that's the type of stuff we don't talk about because we're trying so hard because everything's all over social media and everything. We don't really know what's real and what's not anymore. So
I know, yeah.
But we keep saying like we want to know what everyone's thinking, but like you really don't, because there's a lot of awful thoughts that necessarily.
Oh yeah, no, there's no need to know what everybody is thinking ever.
No, and there's people that will think something that'll be triggered. Like I brought this up one day where I was in a grocery store, and I'm bringing it up for a reason. Like there was a black woman or a black girl. She was playing her music really loud, And there's a lot of there's some racist people in my family, and I didn't realize how much it was in my genes until I saw this, and she just annoyed me, and I just started thinking racist shit in my head, and I'm like, whoa, what? I've never done this. Where did this come from? And I'm like, oh, and I started thinking through my family and other crap. But it's like if someone wanted to scan my brain at that point in time, I am a racist piece of shit. And it's like, but it's like that's the thing. The brain is sometimes just doesn't make sense whatsoever. And it sometimes it'll take you down a road where you're just like, I couldn't even imagine thinking this. But for some reason, and there's sometimes where like you'll be doing something, like let's say watching something on TV and you're just chilling, and there's nothing in this show or movie that will remind you of what you're most afraid of or angry about. But your brain will just go, well, what about this? And you're like, no. Yeah. I was just watching this show. We're on episode 3. Go away. But like it just randomly throws these random pictures at you. And it just shakes you, and it's just like those are the type of things we don't go too deep with mental health. Like I want to
see, and that's why, that's why that's a perfect example of. So my children, I've got them going to counseling, and their first, and now they love it. But my daughter's first reaction, well, actually all of them kind of have the same reaction, but my daughter, I remember her so vividly of, why this is so stupid. I'm fine. What am I just going to talk? You know what I mean? So it's all the questions that actually I think that a lot of adults feel the same way, but then after she went, she felt so much better. And if the more comfortable they are, well, then as they become adults and they have moments where thoughts like that happen or whatever it is, they have worked with someone that is a professional that helps them do things, whether it be a breathing exercise or whatever it is, to calm them down or just and that's where I think that it's going to take time because we're going to have to fertilize the young kids and teach them that hey, mental health is important and okay, and them grow, and those generations and the generations after all will just be better with mental health. I think that it's coming. I do. These kids, I hope we're going to be better.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the kids have it harder than anyone's ever had it because I graduated high school in 2008 and politically correctness was becoming a thing, but it was nothing like it is now. And it's just like, we didn't like when I was in school, there was probably 2 mass shootings, like known ones, which was Columbine and Virginia Tech. And now they have that. And I didn't have to really worry about it too much was online bullying. I dealt with bullying when I was younger, but I never really had to deal with online bullying, so you can't escape that. There's just a lot of things that are thrown into. There's so much just shit that's just mixed up, and you're just like, what is what? And you know, you really can't, like now kids want to pretend to be animals and all kind of things. There's so much in there that it's like no one's really having real honest conversations, and because you can't, because you get fired or someone tells you you're wrong, and it's like, I don't even know how a teacher teaches, and I don't know how a kid learns anymore. Like it's so backwards. So you have to, like, that's why parents are so key. I mean, teachers are very, they're key as well, but the parents, like bad parenting is rampant, and like parents really have to guide their kids in the right direction and have to make them realize like there's a lot of shit that's going to be thrown on your plate more than I had when I was a kid, meaning you. And you just have to be as transparent as possible with them because they're going to find out one way or another. There is no hiding this shit because social media is going to throw it right in their face. So, yeah, I mean, it's...
Well, TJ, I've enjoyed it, brother. I got to run now.
Okay, buddy. Before you go, I know you got to go. Can you just kind of tell us what you're doing right now and then just promote your business and everything?
Yep. So my business pretty much just noahgalloway.com, and from there you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram. All accounts are certified. Right now, I'm big into fitness. I was on the cover of Men's Health, done all this stuff, fitness, and my wife is a big yoga instructor. She's very successful and hosts retreats all over the world. We're partnering up, and we're about to start doing yoga and fitness retreats. So there's a whole bunch of other things that are in the mix, but that's one thing that I'm really excited about because it's going to be a family business, and we're doing it together. And it makes me happy because she makes me happy. And I tell people all the time, if there's something that makes you happy, stick with it. There's something that makes you sad, You got to let it go. So would you agree with that, TJ?
Absolutely. I'm just happy that you found your true happiness. So I'm proud of you.
Me too. Me too. All right, brother. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, and I hope you keep in touch.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. Have fun.
Bye.
See you,
Thank
brother.
you.
All right, guys. That was fun. Yeah, like I said, I'm really trying to dig into other ways of finding guests, not just Podmatch, because sometimes those platforms dry up and you don't find as many guests. I'm trying to find other ways of doing it, and it becomes tough. It really does. There's a lot of people that want you to pay them, and I'm not even like a couple dollars here and there is one thing. Even though I don't know if it's fair that I didn't pay any other guests, but there's guests that I was looking at, and it's like they're like fee is like $5,000 or more. Someone was like $20,000. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I get it. Everybody's got a business. Everybody's got to make their money. But I don't know. When it comes to your message, and again, you could say, well, at some point you want to monetize this. And okay, I get that. But we all have to make money. But I also I want to do this because I want to help people. I want to reach as many people. And I want, I don't know. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm hypocritical. I don't know. But it's not even that, because I would never charge $10,000 to listen to the show ever. But I don't know. That kind of discouraged me, and that's the thing. Sometimes like my brain is always trying to find reasons for me to go, aha, see, I told you this won't work. I told you you're doing this for no reason. This whole thing, this podcast at the end is going to be nothing. Keep going, dumbass. Again, self-sabotaging. My brain hates me. Just does. But yeah, so I found him. I gotta find that site, but it's just a site that just shows you like cool advocates, like strong advocates for the disability community. So we'll have more on, but he was the first one to reach back, and he's just, obviously you can tell he's a very friendly guy and a good guy. So hopefully I made a good friend out of it. I always look forward to just keeping in contact with these people and see what they're doing, and keeps me motivated. Yeah, so I hope you all are doing well again. I think this one's a little more upbeat than, no, the last one was fine, but the one before that with me and my New Year's thing. So hope that didn't get you down too much. Just trying to show you a different side of where I was. The same thing like the one I did with Roxy, just more upbeat. I'm trying to laugh and have a good time. But just want to show you that there's many levels to this, and there's many versions of me, I suppose. And I guess that sounds weird because that does sound like I have many personalities, but I have different emotions sometimes based on how I'm feeling. And some days I don't know when it's going to hit me, like when I'm going to be sad, when I'm going to be angry. It's not every day. But there's always this lingering cloud over me. That's why I called it the dark cloud when I did that first episode about my mental health. There's always been this lingering cloud. It just kind of, some days is more prominent. Some days it's like you feel it. I'm getting like sucked up like an alien ship, just magnetizing me up, just like a magnetic pull, just pulling me up. And then there's days where you just go like, okay, I can feel it. It's over there somewhere. It's like a mile away. I feel it. It's there. And then some days I feel like it's going around in circles. But yeah, what are you gonna do, man? I'm alive. I'm fighting it, but some days it consumes me, and I wish it didn't. But hey, whatever. And I'm only sound like this now because I'm a little sleepy. It's not because of that's how I'm feeling right now. And also, it's just sometimes mentally, my head is running so much that I need now after work here and in this podcast. I just need to kind of lay down, chill, and just let my brain kind of just download everything and put it on the charger, if you will. So let's see. Is there anything else? Bullet, he didn't stay with me very long this time. He jumped down, so came up a little bit, but he's outie. Yeah, I don't even know where he's at. I was gonna have him come by, but anywho, guys, I appreciate you being on this journey with me, and hopefully you enjoyed this guest as well as many others that are coming down the road. Yeah, I don't have anything to say. I've really just hit a corner, and as I turned that corner, I just hit a real dead end. I'm dead end TJ right now. So I'm going to get out of here before it gets worse. Again, thank you for being with me, and I will see you guys on another episode, which will probably be next week. I know it'll be next week. I don't even have an episode done at this point, but I promise you there will be another one. Hold me to it. All right. Bye, guys.